Bob Dole must be involved in this. He lives right there. And the rumor started that burglary tools were hidden in my apartment. So Joe Lastalik, who's a good guy, probably a Democrat, had to interview me and ask me, were the burglary tools hidden in your apartment? And my answer was, no, Joe, that was my night off. I was on a job in Chicago, some foolish thing. But so it got pretty close to home. I mean, they were trying to nail me quietly behind everybody's back. That's why Senator Irvin, without any coaching, did me a great favor.
How did you react to that news? I mean, it was, in a sense, it was your opposite numbers. Place was burglarized. Do you remember what your reaction was?
I think it was disbelief. I mean, it wasn't going to be a contest anyway. It was going to be a wipeout. The governor's my friend. We do work together now in international school lunch program. And I mean, it's something, mentality, the whole thing. It was just hard to get your hand around, and for a while you could deny it happened, then pretty soon you knew it happened.
Who did you talk to at the White House about it?
Well, I did raise it at this meeting. I said, Mr. President, because you had to, address the president. I was not at the table, but behind. Mr. President, I said, I've been traveling the country a lot as a chairman, and this Watergate stories are starting to percolate. And I just want to mention that because I'm certain everybody's aware of it, and whether anything we can do or should do. And that was pretty much what I said. And shortly thereafter, I was no longer there to say it. And I assume that's Haldeman, be my guess.
There was an article in the October '72 Evans and Novak that said that privately you were critical of the White House's handling of the Watergate.
Probably was.
What was this your one effort to get them to do something? I mean, to come out in front of it? That you can recall.
Yeah. I mean, Richard Nixon came up and said, I'm not a crook. And I mean, see, when did he say that? When was that? That was made later on.
That was 73.
73. But you could see the thing was cooking, and it wasn't going to go away because the media wasn't going to let it go away. They didn't like Nixon anyway. And probably a real story. They shouldn't let it go. But my own view is that there's no reason he couldn't have burned the tapes. And it wasn't anybody's information. I mean, Johnson had tapes. Presidents before Kennedy had tapes. And these were, I guess you could say, government property, but they're also the president's property. I mean, they were to be used for historical purposes, not to spy on anybody. And what worried me ever since this has all happened, I mean, they keep releasing excerpts of when you're sitting there having a meeting with the president. I think, well, whew, I got by this time. Maybe next installment my name will be in the paper. Bob Dole said this in 1973. I don't think so, but because when you're sitting there with the President of the United States and you're a lowly senator, you're not really going to disagree with him too often. Now maybe that's a sign of immaturity or lack of courage, but I didn't want to. I didn't like some of the people around Nixon, but I didn't want to make myself believe that Nixon did this, that he actually participated. I kept trying to figure out, well, that's some staffer, that's Chuck Colson, or that's Haldeman, or maybe Ehrlichman. I wasn't ever sure what he was doing. But is a tragic chapter in political history.
When they released the smoking gun tape, how did that affect your sense of Nixon's role?
It was over. And it got down to about, what, 12 senators who called on him. And I wasn't in that group. I mean, I was never part of the Jim Eastland, Senator Stennis, and others. So it wasn't that I had that, and these people didn't have a close, I think I had a sort of a personal relationship with Nixon, but not close. He knew me, and I think he appreciated some things I did. And I thought he had great ideas. I thought the thing I liked about Nixon is the way he picked his cabinet. And I remember being in the hotel, I can't remember which hotel, the night he kind of unveiled the cabinet publicly, first time. I mean, Nixon picked very bright, honorable, high-class people. He wasn't afraid to pick somebody smarter than he was. And that impressed me. I mean, you know, didn't bring in a bunch of political hacks. So, I don't know, I had a struggle in sort of giving up on him. And I never really did, because I brought him back to the Capitol years later saying, you know, you ought to come and visit. And he'd come down and check into Circle 1 Hotel, and he would get his little yellow pad out, and he would sit there all day and probably half the night, and he'd come up to the hill with no notes and dazzle them.
Let me ask you about the selection of Gerald Ford as vice president. Did you play a role at all in that?
No, the role I played was getting Gerald Ford into a leadership role in the House. The three of us in Kansas voted for Ford, and he won by 3 votes against Charlie Halleck. But certainly I didn't have any, I assume if I were asked, I would have said he'd be a great choice.